Hello, everyone, and welcome to the rise of AI agents. Automate everyday work by deploying AI at scale. Today's webinar is sponsored by Glean and produced by ActualTech Media. Speaking of ActualTech Media, I'm Keith. I am with ActualTech Media, and I'm really excited to be your moderator for this especially timely presentation today. But before we dive in, I do need to cover some housekeeping items for you. First off, we want your questions. Just drop them in the questions box in your webinar control panel. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a dedicated Q&A session to get deeper into the top questions that you ask. So you want to keep those coming throughout the presentation today. Now that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know if you've got any technical issues, if you can't hear something or see something, if everything goes south on you, give your browser a quick refresh and then maybe another one. Sometimes it takes 2 refreshes to get things straightened out, and that should take care of your problems. If it doesn't, well, let us know. We'll hop on and try to help you out. Okay, we also have some great free resources for you in the handout section, which is right there next to that questions tab. Today, I'd especially like to call your attention to 2 PDFs, a deep dive into Glean and an overview of the Confluent and Glean partnership, which will be discussed some today as well. You'll also find a link to the ATM Decisions Group, which is a panel of IT decision makers that you can apply to join to participate in more in-depth events and other opportunities that might appeal to you. So check that out. You'll also find a link to the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of more upcoming events like this one. All right. And finally, at the end of this event, we're going to be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you here today. Remember that you do have to be in attendance during the entire live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handouts section. And with that, folks, let's get to today's fantastic content. I promise you it's going to be awesome. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters, and they are Blair Hanley Frank, a product marketing manager with Glean, and Matt Mangia, a staff partner solutions engineer with Confluent. They are ready to go, and Blair is going to be speaking first. So Blair, you now have the mic, sir. Take it away.
Everybody, I'm Blair Hanley Frank. I'm a product marketing manager at Glean. We are the AI-powered platform for enterprise assistance. And I'm super excited to be talking to you about the rise of AI agents in the enterprise. And I'm also very excited to introduce Matt from Confluent, who will be joining us and talking about his experience as a practitioner. Matt, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. Thanks for having me, Blair. My name's Matt Mangia. I'm Director of Corporate Solutions Design and Engineering at Confluent. So I focus on our internal adoption of Confluent, as well as kind of the intersection of our IT and our data teams. So really excited to share some of what we're doing with AI apps and get to show you a live demo a little bit later. So I'll pass back to you, Blair.
Awesome. Well, before we get to the demo, I would love to just give everybody an opportunity to get grounded in the latest news from Glean and what the heck it is that we're talking about today. So let me share my screen. So to start, let's start with a little bit of market context. Right now, there has been tremendous transformation in the technology industry. If you think about how the world has changed, work has moved to the internet, to mobile. We've seen the rise of SaaS, and we are now in the era of generative AI. The creation of ChatGPT and other solutions has really transformed not only the way that we work at home, but the way that we work at work. And we've seen how these opportunities have impacted the market already. And it's only going to become more interesting as we move into this era of what we call generative AI 2.0, AI agents that are going to be tackling and automating complex work. So one of the really key problems to how generative AI works in the enterprise is that data is critical to all of this, right? Garbage in, garbage out. In order to have an agent that understands your company's context, it needs to have the right information. But actually connecting that information is quite difficult. Now, why is that, right? Work data is private. It's only available to your company. This is not something that a LLM off the shelf will be indexing or understanding. It's distributed. It's in multiple different systems, right? If you think about the tens, hundreds, or even thousands of apps that your enterprise relies on to get work done, that is where all of the information that an AI agent will need lives. And not only is it distributed, but it's also rapidly changing, right? Every day, every minute, every second, there are people within your company who are changing the information that is necessary for AI agents to work on. And in order for them to provide good answers back in response to queries, they need to have the most up-to-date information. What's more, this data is company specific, right? Every team has its own unique context where you understand what it is that you're working on, how you're tackling these various and sundry problems that you face, what customers you're working with, what the names of your products are. There's specialized lingo, specific language. Different acronyms mean different things to different people. In the AI context, right, you can talk about RAG, that's retrieval augmented generation. But sometimes when you talk to a project manager, when you talk about RAG, they think about a red, amber, green system of understanding progress towards goals. And every AI agent will need to have a deep and innate understanding of how companies talk in order to answer questions concretely. Finally, you need to understand what the authoritative data is. Enterprises have years and years of information. How do you find the right needle in the haystack to answer a question? In order to succeed at that, you need a horizontal strategy. You need an enterprise AI data stack that is able to combine foundational security, LLMs, knowledge graphs, search, vector databases, as well as comprehensive connections to all of the systems that your companies rely upon, so that what you need to do is connect once, secure once, index once, understand once, and that is what will empower the future of generative AI within your organization. Now, Glean, we're building that platform, right? When you connect all of your company data to Glean, then we provide instant value with Glean Assistant that enables anyone within an organization to search for what they're looking for and find answers and get answers through generative AI chat. Moreover, we're super excited to announce the creation of Glean apps that enable employees and departments to build custom assistants without any code involved. And moreover, we have a set of APIs that are available for companies and for technical users to actually leverage their pro code capabilities to build custom, deeply technical applications. What we offer with Glean is an open horizontal platform. We make it easy for you to choose whatever cloud you want to work with, whether that's GCP, AWS, or our SaaS environment. You can choose the right data connectors that you need for your enterprise. Do you rely on Slack? Do you rely on Outlook or Teams? What about Salesforce, Workday, Greenhouse? All of these systems we are able to connect to. And moreover, we offer free choice for LLMs so that you can pick from the right market-leading intelligence to power all of these different wonderful experiences that can enable your employees to be more productive. So let's dive a little bit deeper into Glean apps, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Glean apps are secure generative AI chatbots, assistants, and agents that are available for you to use at scale in the enterprise. When we're building Glean apps, we wanted to leverage three key principles. Number one, we want to make it possible for everyone to build it, right? make it so that we are able to democratize the power of generative AI to everyone who needs access to it. Second, we want to make sure that it is impressively powerful. When you ask or create a Glean app and you ask it a question, it is able to provide you with the capabilities and the answers that you are looking for in order to make you more effective at work. And finally, we want to make it so that that information and that capability is distributed all across an entire enterprise so that everyone can benefit from the work of those who have created apps. Since we've released Glean apps into early access 2 months ago, we've seen really fantastic traction with more than 100 customers building apps and over 1,000 apps in test and production across our customer base. And we've seen some really, really interesting use cases, right? Think about if I was a product manager. It's easy to build a Glean app that can take information about feature requests and translate that into actionable insights. For customer support agents, they can actually leverage expert apps that understand specifically what information is necessary for their interaction with customers and make it easy for them to provide the right answer quickly so that they can close tickets faster and be more effective. For engineers, we have assistants that can help with triaging issues and answering questions about code so that it's easier to get back to work, coding, and being productive. And there's even more that I haven't had a chance to touch on. So these are the components of Glean apps. We have a no-code app builder, the ability to take action in other systems, an app library for customers to share applications within their organization, and flexible deployment options that make it easy to find information not only within Glean, but also in other surfaces that people rely upon. What's really cool about this is you've probably heard a lot of generative AI announcements over the past several months. And what I'm really excited about, and I think makes us really special, is that all of this is available now or very, very soon. These are capabilities that we have shipping that you can leverage today with the power of Glean. So before we get into the demo, let me walk you through really quickly how you would go about building an app. It's very simple. The first thing you need to do is just give it a name and a description so that other people can understand what it does. Second, you select your knowledge source. These can be as specific as individual documents across any application that Glean connects to. So you could have an app that tackles Confluence pages and Google Docs and even individual chat channels. Containers, which are just groups of documents. So that would be your Slack channel, Google Drive folders, folders in SharePoint. And as well, you can look at entire data sources. So you can say, I want this app to look at all of Jira or all of Slack. Once you're done with that, you're going to give it a custom instruction. These are custom prompts that provide the apps with a meta instruction that tells them what sort of questions they should be expecting and how they should answer them. Finally, you add actions into play. So these are capabilities that the app can actually use to take action on a user's behalf, right? I want you to write a response to this customer email and then send it via Gmail. And finally, you can set up triggers that enable apps to proactively chime in when a user asks a question in our general Glean assistant. Now, let's take a quick deep dive into actions. There are two kinds of actions, read actions and write actions. Read actions are exactly what they sound like. You can look at other data sources and bring that information into Glean. Now, what this means is that there are some data sources that don't lend themselves well to being indexed by Glean's market-leading search capabilities. Things like data warehouses or calendars. This is where read actions are really powerful because they can still enable apps to answer questions about those data sources without them being incorporated into the index. Write actions, on the other hand, are what Glean apps use to take action on a user's behalf. Users are always in control of what information they end up sending out to these systems. But this will allow you to say, once a Glean app has generated some output, take that output and bring it somewhere else seamlessly without any manual intervention. Our app library makes it easy and seamless for people to share the apps that they have created with their entire organization. This way, you can make sure that the apps that you build also empower other people on your team. Think about, for example, an engineering onboarding assistant, right? In this case, you can have engineering leaders who understand software development lifecycle processes and company best practices. They can actually go and build out an entire Glean app and share that with the entire engineering department. When users click on the apps tab in their Glean chat screen, they are then greeted by this app library where they can search for and encounter individual apps that can help them tackle certain situations. But if they don't want to go looking, there's also proactive deployment capabilities. We can enable handoff in Glean Assistant, where what happens is Glean Assistant understands that a user is asking it a query that is better handled by an individual app. And so it will actually pass that query off to the app that has the domain-specific knowledge to answer the question. And you can deploy these apps in Slack channels so that, for example, let's say you have an HR FAQ channel. People can go in there and ask questions, and Glean will respond automatically based on the Glean app that is tasked to that channel. And that way you don't have to have humans answering FAQs unless the information isn't available. And that is all about Glean apps. I would love to pass things over to Matt to share how this all works in practice.
All right, thanks, Blair. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited to share a little bit about what we're doing here at Confluent with apps and how we're starting to use them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to take you through a couple examples of actually some apps that we've built. So what you're looking at right here, as you just heard Blair talk about, we've got our app library. And in this case, I filtered down to some apps that I myself have built. You can see a couple examples here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually pick this Sally for Blue Cloud, which in our case, we have this fictitious Blue Cloud, which is a competitor of Confluence. And so we have this sales enablement compete bot. If you see, I can hover over, I can see a little bit more about what this AI app, this app will do for me. And so we call it Sally for sales enablement. Quite original, I know, but is just kind of a fun little thing we do. And so if I click into that, I get that same description of how I can be helped. But, as someone that is maybe working with customers and might encounter this competitor Blue Cloud out in the field, oftentimes we hear kind of some of these myths or these claims that come from these competitors that, maybe they say Blue Cloud is faster than Confluent. And we really want to help our sellers and our front, our field-facing teams be able to address that. So what we've done is we've built this app to help them answer that question. And so I can come in and say, is Blue Cloud really faster than Confluent? And if I ask this, Glean Assistant's going to take a little bit of time here. It's going to think about it. And you'll see it actually comes back. It tells me the document it's used. And you'll see this is a fictitious competitor. So I did create a document that's just for our demo purposes here. But you'll see that this app has responded. Sally for Blue Cloud has come back and given me this pretty comprehensive response that really outlines this question of, is Blue Cloud really faster? And so, I've actually tailored this on the back end to really hit on a certain kind of canonical response that we want to make sure is addressed. But I can really quickly and easily go in and see, hey, they may say this, but based on these benchmarks, we don't think it's true. And I can see that reference. I can go find that document if I need to. But again, this is just kind of a really, really simple example that we've built to help our teams be able to have a little more natural of a dialogue. And you can imagine in a normal scenario before an AI app world, we would have a SME that is kind of fielding these questions, right? Whether it's over Slack or in different meetings. And by doing this app, we've been able to take that SME and turn him into a 24/7 resource. So he's no longer bound to need to respond to these Slacks at off hours or kind of manage all of these different places that he might engage. And so it's really been a powerful multiplier for us among those SMEs. Okay, so I also want to do another example here, which is slightly different, but it's actually talking about things like system status. And what I love about this use case, it actually combines some of what Blair talked about of this going out and retrieving external information to enrich an experience. So, all right, so I also want to show another use case that we have around collecting the system status. And what I love about this use case is that it's actually a great example of retrieving external information that we don't have within our Glean index. And, Blair alluded to this earlier. Sometimes there are things that we don't really need or want to put inside of Glean. And one of those would be a status, right? And so within Confluent, we offer a SaaS product as an offering to our customers. And so we have Confluent Cloud, and like many SaaS products, we have a status page. And so you can imagine that it's not uncommon for our teams internally to want to check, especially if their customer might be encountering a problem. They just want to check, hey, is Confluent Cloud working? Is it down? And so I'm now here in Glean Assistant, and let's say that I've encountered one of those situations. And so I, as someone from the field, can come in and say, hey, is Confluent Cloud down? And so what I can do is just ask that question. And you'll see here that Glean is actually invoking that action, and it's externally going out and retrieving the status from this Confluent Cloud status page. And so you see, when I make that question towards Glean Assistant, it's able to quickly pull this back. I didn't need to remember what the status website was or where it was on that page that I needed to look for, but I'm able to quickly get to my answer. And so it's just a simple example, but something that we've seen be really powerful for our teams. And then, as you may have noticed, I'm here in this general assistant context. And so what is really great is that I can still ask questions that might be better suited for other apps. And you heard Blair talk about this in the context of what he called routing. And so I can ask things like, is Blue Cloud faster than Confluent? And so you'll see if I ask this to my general assistant, what's going to happen is it's going to take a look at my demo or in my demo documents here, and it's going to look across our corpus, and you'll see it actually intelligently picks up my query, my question, and says, this is a great example for Sally to respond. And it does. It tells me, hey, I'm going to use Sally to answer this question. And that's exactly what it does. So I end up getting back this nice comprehensive answer that I have worked with our SME and built this AI app. And so that SME is able to kind of curate what that app experience is when it responds. And so we get this great opportunity to kind of route our questions. And if you can imagine, I didn't need to know I need to go talk to Sally for Blue Cloud. I just came and asked Glean Assistant, and it was smart enough to route me to the right SME and the right app in this case to help answer my question. So really powerful capability that we just continue to expand within Confluent, and really excited to share some of these use cases with you today. But there are many, many more. So I think, Blair, if there are questions from you or anything I can show as well, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you walking us through that demo. It's one thing for somebody like me to talk about what Glean is capable of. It's yet another thing for somebody who has been in the trenches to have, the opportunity to show what it's possible to do. I'm curious to know, as you've started rolling out Glean apps within Confluent, how have they fit into your day-to-day operations, and what sort of impact have you seen?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So I talked a little bit about it with the Sally bot example. We've really honed in on this capability to be almost multipliers of our SMEs, right? And so in those case of those Sally apps, we actually are going and finding who the SME is. And what's really cool is the SME is building the app. It's not me. It's not a central team. We actually go out and we empower the SME, and I say, look at this great opportunity for you to multiply, right? For you to take your expertise and, kind of save you from having to answer all of those repetitive, hey, these people said they're faster, or they say they're better, or they're cheaper. And so what's really cool is I've been able to see those SMEs, first off, really quickly pick up apps and build them. Like I said, with very little guidance from me. I give them a quick 15-minute overview, and then they're off to the races. And what's really cool is they come back to me and they say, I'm driving my, questions when people come to me or into Slack channels or wherever. They're sending them to this app. And they're saying, I see the benefit of that. And the end users see the benefit of getting that immediate response, right? They don't have to wait for me to come out of a meeting or wherever it is. And, from a business perspective, it's allowed our SMEs to focus on the higher value activity, right? It's freed them up from a lot of these questions that actually already exist in our corpus, right? They already exist inside of what Glean has indexed for us. And so I think in many respects, apps has been that multiplier on top of this phenomenal capability that Glean's given for us to connect our knowledge across the enterprise. And it's gone a step further of, okay, so now how do I use that? How do I understand how to interact with that? And so I think that's the biggest impact I've really seen, is that it's something people can grasp and can understand. But it's also something that is doable. It's easy. Like I said, I have SMEs, like several different ones that go out and built these. And what I showed you today was just a couple that I built, kind of copying some of what they've done. So I think really it's really cool to have seen how quickly it's been adopted, and to see what our teams are going to build next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to double click on that a little bit, like what are the teams where you've seen the most uptake so far?
Yeah, it's a really great question. The things that come to my mind, it's mostly teams that have, I don't want to say like repetitive or monotonous tasks, but we go back to that SME use case, right? It's very repeated questions that we hear a lot. But then there's other use cases we've got within like our support team, right? Where maybe I need to escalate a ticket, right? Or maybe I need to ask for some added special handling that goes onto a ticket. And so those are processes that are really well defined inside of our company, but not everyone knows them, right? I think in any enterprise, there's going to be process that probably exists and is great, but not everyone knows it. And that's kind of an unfortunate reality. But what's really cool here is Glean knows that, right? Glean has all this information on the process. And so it doesn't matter that the user doesn't know the process, but Glean knows it. And so what we've been able to do is work with some of these teams that own the process, whether that's like that support example I gave, whether it's some of like our kind of internal, feature launch type capabilities where we have process around it. And, there's different, stage gates and different things that exist. We've seen that Glean apps are a phenomenal way for those teams to kind of put a little wrapper around their process and make it really approachable and make it conversational in a way that doesn't involve going to a wiki page or going to a Google Doc and reading 10 pages of FAQs, and instead being able to just have a dialogue with an app, right? I think those are the buckets we've seen really kind of rally around. And it's really started to open our thinking to say, what are those really, big, hairy goals that we can go after? And it's started to spark some of these, can we do a lot more, triage support within our internal IT? And can we take away some of these, repeated activities that we actually have a pretty good run book for and know how these behaviors should progress? So I think that's where we've really focused in and started to see the excitement and adoption the most.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to sort of speak to some of those use cases that you're thinking about for the future. How are you thinking about usage of Glean apps evolving at Confluent? Where are you looking to next?
Yeah, I love it. So yeah, we alluded to this. We're doing a lot of these kind of process, and I think of them as multipliers and consistency and standardization, and all things that enterprises dream of doing, right? And I think what we started to see as we've done apps and done more of this, the power of actions, and you saw a small example, right? I just did that retrieval example, but the power that action starts to unlock for us becomes this like really powerful orchestration layer to a degree. And I don't want to make this sound like a really onerous world, right, where I have to go build all these workflows and all this other stuff. But that's where we're starting to go, right? We're seeing this beauty that kind of emerges out of the standardization, and in doing that, we've started to say, oh my gosh, look at these great opportunities for us to go take these actions. So it's actually opened up the door for us to be able to do that, right? Because we never had that standardization or process, because a process is only as good as the people that know how to do it, right? Well, we can kind of solve that, right? Glean Apps has a little bit solved that for us. And so now we start to think, okay, how do we make that better, right? How do we take that process and elevate it so that maybe there's more automation, maybe there's a little bit less of those repeated tasks. Maybe we don't need to go have someone open a ticket and add in some details because the app already knows it. So I think that's where we're going, right? Is how do we kind of go to the next level and elevate what we're doing to bring even more value.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the things that has been really great about seeing you interact with our customers at Glean is that you've been one of the great champions for helping other people adopt Glean apps based on the success that you've seen at Confluent. I'd love to just talk for a minute. What is your advice for people, not only Glean customers, but folks in your similar position where they're staring down adopting and integrating these sorts of AI tools into their organization? Like, what tips and tricks do you have for those practitioners?
Yeah, it's all about talking to your users and trying things. Like go in and try it. And I love that you referenced the community. I think some of the examples that I even showed and things that we've done internally have just been suggestions from other people. They said, hey, we tried to do this system status. Right. And I was like, oh, whoa, that'd be really powerful. We have a system status page internally, and we have that cloud SaaS offering. And how about bringing all those together? So I think the advice I have is, start small to a degree, find those easy multiplier use cases, right? Go find the teams that have their content documented or have their SMEs identified and would benefit from this really easy multiplier, right? I talked about it earlier. It's not hard to make these. Like Blair, you showed it. It's probably under 5 minutes. We probably could have done a demo of building everything I showed. We could have done that live very easily in this call. And I think oftentimes when I've talked to other teams that are kind of thinking about how do we use AI and what do we do, they have this kind of perception that it's really hard. But when I talk to them and I get on a 15-minute call and just say, hey, look at these Glean apps, and you're just going to describe what you wanted to do. And then, you're going to give a couple of kind of knowledge source or documents that you wanted to reference. And then you can try it, right? You can click save and you get a URL right away, and you can go tweak it, and you can, get a response and say, oh, that didn't work. Let me change it. And you just do that. Right. And I think that is what we've seen, right? Is as you equip people and as you kind of empower them, the use cases that start to flow out of that are really cool. And I think, I keep going back to it. Building these is so easy and straightforward that I think, to me, that's the hardest part, is getting someone to go log in and try it, right? And I think once you can do that, your brain will start to kind of explode with all these ideas of what you can do next. So that's my advice. Just get started. Find someone that you can help, and help them, and then watch the kind of ripple effect. We've seen it a bunch here, where someone will see that and say, "Oh my gosh, I want that," right? And there's a little bit of that FOMO, so that gets the snowball going. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your insights. I'm going to open things up to questions from the audience. The first one I see here is a really good and operative one. There are a lot of offerings out there that claim to do similar things. Why did Confluent choose Glean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we've all seen so all these different companies and software, throwing on a little AI module or add-on, and Confluent's no different, right? We've seen that. We've seen it everywhere. And I think that for us, we have explored it a little bit, right? I mean, I'll be honest, we've looked at some other offerings out there, and one of the things that has overwhelmingly kept pointing us back to Glean is the foundation of the search and the foundation of that retrieval augmentation that you talked about, that RAG model. It's not easy to do in a lot of these other tools, right? And a lot of times they say, "Oh, hey, we need you to connect, your ticket information, and we need you to connect your, your documents from over here." And in our case, as we started to look at some of that, we said, "Wait, we already did that. Glean already did that for us. We don't need to go build an index somewhere else, because we already invested the time to do that with Glean, and it's really good." And so for us, that's been something we keep coming back to, is we're not having to go recreate those new integration points, right? We're not having to go grab the sources that are needed, because as you said early on in your presentation, you said like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but garbage in, garbage out. The old phrase still applies here, right? And so every AI app or AI service, whatever it is only as good as what you give it. And in our case, Glean has the entirety of our enterprise and available in that corpus. And I don't, we found that's not reasonable for a lot of our other tools and a lot of other options. So ultimately, that was a big reason for it. And then the other thing, I know I probably sounding like a broken record. It's just so easy, right? Like I said, we can go deploy and do a really quick, simple POC in ways that would take us probably days or weeks in other systems, as opposed to 5 minutes in Glean. So I think those are kind of the two big areas I've seen as to why Glean and why not some of these other offerings.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, what I will say is that from my point of view, I'm very glad that you're here sounding like a broken record, because, it's very easy for me to talk about how great Glean is from the inside, but it's an entirely different thing to get the sort of validation from customers like you. And we always, it's great to have that perspective here. Yeah. One other thing, you talked about garbage in, garbage out. One of the other questions that I see here is a hot topic in this space. How do you deal with hallucinations, and how do you think about hallucination in the context of Glean apps and generative AI more broadly?
Absolutely. Phenomenal question. Like I said, it's on everyone's mind right now. I think we were right there, right? When we started, we were thinking to ourselves, okay, as we roll out these apps, how confident can we be? And we're going to get these hallucinations. And especially like in that compete scenario, the last thing we want to do is have our rep go tell someone something that's not true. And especially if we're training on maybe competitor objection handling and things, there's a really careful line you want to draw there, right? We don't want to go and say that we do something that our competitor does, right? Like that would not be good. So I think that was really top of mind for us. And so what we did when we actually built the first kind of Sally bot, and that's kind of actually for us a family of apps to where we've got one for different competitors, right? So when we first did that, we actually had some internal, very smart guys, I guess is what I'll call them, very smart people that work on our teams. And they went out and they built their own LLM, right? And they said, okay, we're going to go train our own model on this information and we're going to really finely tune it. And then they did a bake off against Glean. And they said, hey, we're going to do it in Glean. We're going to take the 5 minutes, build the little app, and then we'll compare it against this thing we took a week or two to build and train and all this stuff that we're now going to have to maintain and figure out how do we do that. And the feedback that these SMEs came back to me with is they said, Matt, we don't know how, but Glean never hallucinated on us. And, I think that it was really, for us, a bit of an eye-opening experience that a lot of those kind of workplace safety and a lot of that hallucination stuff, Glean takes care of so well by grounding in your corpus and in your knowledge. And I think that, I go back to that example. We had a guy who wrote like a 12-page document. Like, it was a very extensive, assessment of like, hey, look at this. Like, here were the canonical arguments we were measuring against. And he had this big old scoring model and everything. And at the end of the day, he came back and just said, Glean didn't hallucinate ever for us. And our own custom models did. Some other things that we've done did. And at the end of the day, we're not maintaining this corpus underneath with Glean because we just do what we normally do, right? We already maintain the docs and the wiki pages and everything, and Glean just knows about it. We don't have to retrain. We don't have to do anything like that. And so I think for us, that confidence in Glean's ability to really stay grounded in truth was what said, okay, yeah, we feel good enough to roll this out. And then obviously layering on the permissions. I think we didn't even talk about that, but just having the context of a customized permissions model that when I talk to an app, I'm only getting answers from things I know about. It sounds really basic and it sounds like just, table stakes. Nobody else does that, right? We've looked at other competitors, like other things out there, like they don't do that. And I think that is really powerful. And I think the two of those things absolutely were things that were top of mind for us, but we really felt confident with Glean after we did the many-page document to kind of assess how things looked.
Yeah, and I think, to add a little bit more color from our end here, hallucinations are something we care about a great deal. We're very focused on RAG, on that retrieval augmented generation. And we're specifically telling Glean Assistant and Glean apps, like, you should only be sharing information that you can point back to a source for. If you can't source this information, you should not be replying with it. Because you think about this not only for Confluent, but for all of our other customers, it's really important that we're able to provide authoritative and canonical answers. And that's a responsibility we take really seriously.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that, but yeah, that was one of the things in the paper. The team that built this said, we don't know how they did that. Like, that's really hard. So I think, I'm glad you said that because I actually forgot about that. The source notations and the citations are just really affirm what you see to be grounded in truth, right? And I think, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I did forget about that.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody on the live stream, for joining us. I really appreciate you spending some time today to engage with us and learn. Absolutely keep the conversation going. I know you can find me anywhere on social media. Matt, I know that you have a wonderful presence out there as well. So definitely do be in touch. And we'll be sure to follow up on any other questions that we missed offline as well. And with that, I will hand things back over to you, Keith. Thanks so much for having us.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, it was our pleasure, gentlemen. Wow, what a great session, folks, huh? I think you would all agree. Such good insights there. I love the real world reports of how a product works when the bullets are flying. They are so valuable. Having that kind of feedback and that kind of case study just gives you an idea of what Glean can do for you. So useful, so valuable. I really appreciate that. And as as they said that they are going to follow up with any questions they didn't get to today. You will be hearing from them, so sit tight and have no fear if your question did not get answered during the session. And folks, that about does it for today. I just have one more piece of business to take care of, and that is to award the $250 Amazon gift card. As I mentioned at the top, you do have to be present for the entire event to be eligible to win. And the winner for today's event is Brandon Butler from Texas. Congratulations to you, Brandon. We are going to be in touch with you ASAP about getting your card. And with that, folks, on behalf of the ActualTech Media team, I want to thank Glean for making this event possible. I want to thank you attendees for being here with us, for your interest in this super important topic, and for your great questions. It's been a real honor to be here with you today, and I hope to see you in the next one. That's all for me today, folks. Have a great rest of your day.